I have spent over $400 million in GTA Online, but these are by far the 10 worst things I have ever spent my money on, and which you should definitely avoid buying. Starting off with the low-end apartments, which are the first of many properties you should avoid on this list. Most beginners may see the price of the low-end apartments and see them as a great cheap option when starting out. And while this is technically true, most GTA Online players really don't require them. The main reason for this is that there's no real reason to own one, as they serve no purpose. And while they do have some garage space, it's barely enough, especially in 2024. The low to mid-range apartments have between 2 to 6 car garages, which can definitely be useful, but not for most players. The main feature of the low-end apartments is that they are used as safe houses, which is totally insignificant in GTA Online these days. And other than being able to start a few vehicles, that is all the low-end apartments offer. And you may be thinking, isn't this just an apartment? Why not just buy one? Well, here's the thing, it's actually best to save up an extra few $100,000 to buy a high-end apartment, because unlike every other apartment in the game, these actually serve a purpose, allowing you to earn some significant money through a series of OG heists, which can earn you roughly $2 to $3 million, which is huge compared to just having a place to spawn in with the low-end apartments. So overall, they only serve to waste time and money in the long run. Do not buy these. Another property you should definitely not buy is the Arena Workshop, which is a property most of you probably forgot about until just now. And for a good reason, as it's not a good investment to be making, because you could be spending anywhere from $1 million up to $5 million with the upgrades. Look, if you have a ton of money to blow away, then the Arena Workshop can be something you can splash out on. Overall, as a property, it does suck. There are a few benefits worth mentioning, such as it being the only place where you can customize the RC Bandito, which is a remote control vehicle, and you can also customize the many Arena War vehicles with the personal mechanic. And finally, the main reason you would likely want to own this property is for the 30 car garage space, if you of course need it. Other than that, there are no real ways to earn money with the Arena Workshop, because you don't actually need to own one in order to start up the Arena War game mode, as anybody can start them in the game, which basically makes this property completely useless and a waste of money. And speaking of wastes of money, next up we have the Document Forgery office, which is the worst business in the game by a long shot. And if you were mad enough to buy this business, you would be spending up to $1.4 million for the cheapest one, and that includes the upgrades. Because yes, you would in fact need to buy upgrades to make the maximum amount of money from this business, which by the way is not a lot at all. The upgrades aren't the only thing that you'll be wasting money on, because you'll also need to buy the supplies, which will cost up to $100,000, and the return that you get is even worse, as you would only be profiting $67,000, which would take 3 hours to produce. And that means you're earning $20,000 per hour, which is absolutely terrible in this day and age. And although technically this is all completely passive, because all you have to do is buy supplies and then wait for it to fill up to sell, yeah, sure, that is technically correct, but the return that you get, it is not worth running this business at all. There are so many better options in the game that can make much more money than the Document Forgery office. And not just businesses, but even free mode activities. Because if you were to complete a payphone hit, you would be earning $45,000 for just 10 minutes of work, which is literally double the hourly rate of this business in way less time. So if you couldn't already tell, do not spend a single penny of your money on the Document Forgery office. It is not worth buying at all. And while we're on the topic of businesses, the next worst thing to buy on this list is Cosmetic Upgrades. When buying almost any property or business in the game, you will be given the option to add cosmetic upgrades to the property. These upgrades can change many things about the business, from the style and the look of the interior to different lighting changes and so many other things that you can add. and this can see you spending millions within minutes when you really don't need to be. Let's use the nightclub for example. First, you can add a nightclub style option, giving you 3 different options to change up your nightclub interior. That's an extra $300,000 spent already just to change how the nightclub looks. Then there's 4 different light options, another $300,000 spent again if you want the most expensive one, because why not? And then you can add some dancers with different genders and styles, and that will see you spending up to $500,000. And finally, let's add some dry ice for $345,000. And before you even know it, you spent an extra $1.5 million on the most useless upgrades ever. And sure, these upgrades do make your business look a lot nicer, but if you're a beginner, the last thing you should be doing is chucking away millions upon millions when starting out on cosmetic upgrades, because they will not make you money. Instead, they will waste you a lot of money, which is exactly why you should avoid buying them for your businesses until later down the road when you actually have enough money to waste on them. Another thing that is completely useless is clothing, which is next on the list. Clothing is definitely a key part of GTA Online, and some players can create some really cool outfits with them. And while this isn't bad at all, some players don't realize just how expensive the clothing really is, because while on the surface it all seems fairly priced, with clothing ranging from a few $1,000s up to maybe $40,000 for the most expensive items. This can seriously add up. If you're trying to create an outfit, you usually try matching some items together, such as some trousers, then a shirt, then a hoodie, and maybe throw in some accessories, and before you know it, you've spent over a couple $100,000 on just one outfit. And if you're making a couple outfits at once, you could be walking out of the clothing store with a few $100,000 less in your bank account. Again, it may all seem fairly priced for GTA Online's economy, but when you're not really paying attention to what you're buying, it can massively add up. And that is just for the cheaper clothing options, because there are some clothing options, mainly in the outfit section, which are ridiculously overpriced, which can see you spending upwards of $400,000 on one single outfit, which is insane. Most of these outfits aren't even worth the price tag. Some of them are alien costumes or neon bodysuits, so whatever you do not buy these clothing items. Instead, just be mindful of what you're spending your money on the next time you take a visit to the clothing store, because it will save you a lot of money. And that brings me onto the vehicles on this list, starting with the Mule Custom. And before you say, I know it is only $100,000, but trust me, many players make the huge mistake of buying this vehicle, and it can cause them a lot of trouble. Let me explain. You see, the Mule Custom is one of 3 vehicles that you can buy for your nightclub warehouse that you can use as sell vehicles. There's the Speedo Custom and also the Pounder Custom, all of which can be bought from Warstock. But you should definitely avoid buying the Mule Custom for many reasons, because for every 0 to 90 units of product in your nightclub, you will be delivering them with the Speedo Custom. However, for every 90 to 180 units of product, you will deliver with the Mule Custom. And when there's over 180 units of product, you get the Pounder Custom. So why exactly should you avoid buying the Mule? Well, the simple answer is you don't actually need it. If you bought the Mule, then you will have to use it for deliveries between anything above 90 units. However, if you don't even own one, anything above 90 crates will always give you the Pounder Custom instead, which is a significantly better and faster vehicle than the Mule Custom. It's quite literally pointless owning one, and if you unfortunately do own it, there is no way to get rid of it, as you can never sell one, which is why this is a warning for those players who haven't bought it yet. Do not buy it. The Mule is underpowered and can barely overcome any terrain during the nightclub sell missions, and anytime that you want to sell over 90 units, just remember you will have to sell with the Mule, which again you will rarely ever be doing anyway, as it's much more efficient to always sell your nightclub above 180 units of product. which is why you should never buy it. And that brings me on to the Yacht, which is by far the most expensive and most useless item in all of GTA Online. You can buy a Yacht for a starting price of $6 million, and it can go up to $8 million. And that is without the millions spent on cosmetic upgrades, which could see you spending up to $10 million. You get the point. It is expensive, which is pretty much all this thing is. It's a luxury item. So surely if you're paying this much money, you're going to get a lot in return, right? Well, that is not the case. Because any amount of money that you spent on this thing, you will likely never get back from just the Yacht itself. Because the Yacht does have a small feature, and that is being able to start up the Super Yacht Life missions, which have 6 missions in total. And they recently received a payout increase with the new update, earning a solo player between 30 to 50k per mission, which isn't bad at all until you realize how much you actually spent in the first place. You would have to do 150 to 300 missions if you want to make a return on the Yacht. And let's be real, nobody wants to do that. But sure, if you want to have some fun and make some quick cash, then this is an activity that the Yacht offers. The Yacht is also a massive ocean vehicle, but do you know what else is? The Kasaka submarine. And do you also know what the Kasaka can do? You can drive it. But guess what? We can't do that with the Yacht. All we can do is locate it to a new part of the map. But I don't want to do that. If I'm paying $10 million, I want to be able to drive this thing. Such a massive wasted opportunity. So overall, the Yacht is a luxury item. You will only ever want to buy a Yacht to flex the fact that you can buy a yacht. It serves little to no purpose at all, other than it being a decorative item. And if you're a beginner, you definitely can't afford one. Therefore, you can never actually buy one, which is a good thing. Another thing you should never actually buy is the taxi, which is one of the newer vehicles added to GTA Online, and this will cost you $650,000 for the base price. And let me explain why this is literally the most useless vehicle in the game. So, for $650,000, what does this taxi allow you to do? Well, the only feature it has is taxi work, which makes you roleplay as a taxi driver in GTA Online. Remember being able to do that in story mode, where you could hop into a taxi and pick up customers around the map? Well, that's basically what you're doing in GTA Online now, with the taxi. So, is the pay any good? Well, I'll give it to Rockstar for the immersion in the taxi roleplay, because the pay is basically what you can expect as a real life taxi driver, because each fare will usually give you between $4,000 to $5,000, which is basically $20 to $30 in real life. So yeah, you want the taxi driver experience, you really are going to get it. But look, here's the most important thing about the taxi work. You don't actually need to own the taxi from Warstock in order to start them. That is right, you could be spending $650,000 on a useless vehicle just to roleplay as a minimum wage taxi driver when you didn't actually need to. Because if you go to the downtown Cabco building on your map, you can launch the taxi work from there, and you'll be given your very own taxi, completely free. Yeah, do not buy the taxi, it is not worth it at all. Which brings me on to the next vehicle on this list, which are the cop cars. For years now, GTA Online players have been begging for police vehicles in the game. And Rockstar finally delivered, and they released cop cars into GTA Online with the Chop Shop DLC. And since then they have added even more into the game, with there now being 9 different purchasable cop cars. And while this is amazing, they do of course come with their drawbacks, because this is GTA Online after all. The main problem with these cop cars is the pricing. Now look, prices of vehicles have always been expensive, and they continue to rise with every single update. GTA Online inflation hit harder than real life, but the pricing on the cop cars is insane. They range from $3.9 million for the cheapest option and go all the way up to $5.4 million. And I get it, it's cop cars. You have to make them somewhat overpriced. But look, a riot van for $4.8 million is ridiculous. You can get a 5-star wanted level and steal one for free. But other than that, the police cruisers themselves are honestly not that bad. The customization isn't great, they could have definitely added more options for us, but that is not my biggest complaint. You see, when these cop cars originally released, there was no real reason to own one except for the fact that it was a cop car. But with the new update, Rockstar added dispatch work. And if you've played San Andreas before, these are pretty much vigilante missions. And at first, everyone was pretty excited about these missions, because you get to roleplay as a cop and complete cool side missions for Vincent. But that was not the case, because in order to actually start these missions, you do need to own a cop car. And with the prices that I went over earlier, this is no small paywall. It's going to set you back massively if you want to try out the dispatch work. And with a paywall like that, surely these missions are worth doing, right? Well, again, you'd be wrong. Like I said, the missions can be started from within the cop cars, but here's the thing, that is all you need the cop cars for, because they're not even required to complete the missions. You can start them from inside your cop car and then go ahead and request a futuristic flying bike to complete the rest of the mission, which half the time is just flying across the map to a location, killing some people or collecting a package and then dropping it off to get $25,000. It is horrible. The concept could have been great, but it's Rockstar Games. Instead, just like the vigilante missions in San Andreas, why didn't they just allow the dispatch work to be started from inside any police vehicle? That way, you could go to a police station on the map and begin the missions from there, instead of having to pay $4 to $5 million just for a vehicle that lets you start a mission. So, enough said. I don't recommend buying these cop cars unless you really like the look of them and you have tens of millions to waste. And finally, something that is definitely a waste of tens of millions of dollars are the Deluxe Aircrafts. This includes the Luxor Deluxe and the Swift Deluxe, some of the most expensive aircrafts in the game. So, what are they? They are simply gold-plated reskins of their standard variants that you can get for much cheaper in the game. These aircrafts are the biggest wastes of money, because their only real difference is the gold plating. There are zero performance upgrades, nothing. It's the exact same vehicle, only this time it's got gold plating on it. So just like the yachts, these are luxurious purchases, because the Luxor Deluxe will cost you a whopping $10 million, which is literally 5 times more expensive than the original, which by the way, you can get for free at the airport whenever it spawns in, making this even more ridiculous. As for the Swift Deluxe, this will cost $5.1 million, which costs 3 times more than the original. The only real reason you want to own one of these is to flex the fact that you want to own it. Other than that, it's a massive waste of money. And there we have it. Those are the 10 worst purchases that you can make in GTA Online. Comment below the worst purchases that you've made that I didn't list in this video, and check out more guides on screen now. And I'll see you all in the next one.